Grab the royal food taster, Wargamers. Today we are going to feast upon the glories of how to win at RPGs. And today we're going to look at a practical application of murder for hire and how much better it works when you honor the three concepts that we talked about in previous videos. This is the fourth in an ongoing series of how to win at RPGs. In the previous three episodes, we took the seed of playing the rules as they are written, and we planted it in the soil, the fertile soil of Jeff Rogaxian, or one-to-one timekeeping, and then we watered it with the waters of proper mindset. That is, rules first, then campaign, then characters. Today, we're going to take a look at the glorious flower that blooms. Well, one of the flowers that blooms from that process, and that is assassination. And in particular, how the assassin character class in AD&D actually begins to work when you play the game as it was intended. Bear in mind before we go any further that these concepts are applicable to a wide range of RPGs, not just AD&D. But it's time, after all of our high-falutin theorizing, to take a look at exactly what doors are opened by this style of genuine D&D. Before we get too deep into it, I want to talk about the genesis of D&D, where we are, how we got here, because there's a common misconception that there is a series of quantum steps that starts with chainmail and then goes into original D&D. And then that was taken and cleaned up by J. Eric Holmes in what is commonly referred to as either Holmes or Blue Book D&D, and then turned over to Moldvay and Cook, who gave us Basic and Expert. And then Gygax stepped in and said, well, here's the advanced version. And then, of course, we all know that after that, there was the Red Book D&D, came out as a more introductory flavor written for 12-year-olds. Fine game in its own right, but that was generally the marketing strategy. And then second edition and third edition and, the next one. And then finally the crayon version that we have that's fifth edition. I just like poking fifth edition players. They get so bound up. It's a fine game. If you like playing D&D wrong, go play it. It's great. That's a wrong way to look at it. Okay, you got to look at it in a slightly different way because these are not discrete steps. There was a lot of feedback. It's an evolution that was gradual, and they all influenced each other in a variety of ways. And so when we look at AD&D, we need to really look at it as a step from OD&D and not pay quite so much attention to Blueholme or Basic and Expert. The reason we need to look at it from that perspective is because the assassin class does not work in more modern iterations of D&D that dispense with the one-to-one timekeeping. That is, when you're not sitting at the table, one day passes in the campaign for every day that passes in the real world. That is the intention between original D&D and advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and the assassin class works within that framework. We're going to take a look at how and why by dialing into a number of rules that tend to be lost in the translation from genuine timekeeping to the real-time timekeeping. The other issue is that the reason these don't work in that style of D&D is because you have to be willing to de-spotlight that character and allow him to go off in the downtime and do what he does best, and that is stick pointy things into the parts of people that aren't expecting it. And we're going to start with the combat rules. Because they can use any sort of shield and weapon, assassins are generally superior to thieves in combat. I want to say that again because I think a lot of people believe that assassins are just glorified thieves. They're not. They are far more durable in frontline combat than thieves. And you need to look at how these things combine. The quotes that I'm showing you here are taken from both the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's all in the books. You just got to read it. You just got to apply it. So right now we're looking at the fact that in combat, they're a lot more resilient as frontline fighters. Bear in mind, they don't punch quite as well as your dedicated fighter types, but take a look at this. If they surprise a victim, they attack in the assassination table. This is huge. Assassins effectively short-circuit the normal rules of combat. They have the potential to insta-kill their opponents if they can achieve that all-important surprise. There's other ways of doing that, but of gaining that surprise. We all know that the general way that thieves do this is by getting around and working the backstab. Assassins, as we'll see in a moment, have other means of achieving that. Now, I got to be careful here because I don't want to show so much stuff that I violate any kind of copyright infringement issues here. This is not the full Assassin's table. If memory serves, this is actually in the DMG. The players do not see this. This is not front-facing. But let's take a look on the left-hand side. You see the level of the assassin. And going across the top, we've got the level of the intended victim. So what you see here is that if the assassin can get a surprise attack on, say, a first-level guy attacking a fifth-level NPC, on the surprise attack, he has a 1 in 3 chance of killing that guy outright. Do you understand how huge that is? A fifth-level fighter with something like 30 hit points can be taken out with a dagger. Most people think that these rules don't make sense. Oh, they're not very realistic because how come knives aren't more powerful? Right here, baby. If you're an assassin who is well-trained in where to find the chinks in the armor and where those important vital organs are located, with a plain D4 dagger. Now, of course, if you have a choice between the dagger and a two-handed battle axe, you're going to use the two-handed battle axe, because even if you fail with this assassination, you still do normal damage, right? You still want to maximize your potential for doing damage. But with that little knife, you can kill a big bad guy. Nobody talks about this, but this is a game changer, particularly if you are going after spellcasters, right? They don't have a lot of experience points anyway. But a 9th level spellcaster, if you're a 3rd level assassin and you're going after a 9th level spellcaster, a 1 in 5 chance, that's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good, guys. You gotta look at the rules and you gotta study these and see how they fit together. As usual, I gotta tip my hat to the Bro SR, it's a group of guys on Twitter that have kind of put all this stuff together. I didn't come up with all this on myself. I'm just the messenger. Go ahead and shoot me. I'm a big boy. I can take it. Let's take a look at how one of the ways that you can get surprise. And for that, we have to take a look here at disguise. Assassins can don disguises in order to gain the opportunity to poison or surprise a victim. I'm not going to talk about poison. That stuff was all fairly cut and dried. It's very high risk, right? This is another case where even if you don't kill them outright, if you're using poison, there's a very good chance that essentially what you're doing is you're stacking. If you're using a poison that requires somebody with poor saving throws, a high-level magic user, first you've got that 1 in 5 chance that you kill him outright through the assassination. Then you've got a 1 in 5 chance that you're going to kill him through the poison. Man, you're doing fantastic. Problem, poison has some downsides. If people realize you're using it, they go berserk. And it's not entirely clear to me from the casual perusal that I've done. Could be even the other party members will come after you because they don't want you using poison, but that's maybe a topic for another video. For today, I just want to point out that disguising yourself so as appear to be human, semi-human, or humanoid creature, you're going to disguise yourself as an orc. All of a sudden, you open up the opportunity for spying missions. And this is one of the other powers that doesn't get discussed very often. Take a look at this assassin spying table. Now, this is largely covered in the DMG under the NPC rules, but it also applies for the player characters. Hey, by the way, that 1 in 5 chance of assassinating a high-level guy, hire yourself 5 first-level assassins and send them after that spellcaster. Now you've got 5 chances at 1 in 5. Suddenly 1 in 5 becomes 90%. You cannot do this if you're using full stop, pause the game. It's 11 o'clock at night and we'll pick it up at the exact moment on the calendar that we pick. Oh, next week, we'll pick it up right where we left off. There's no time. This stuff takes time in the campaign world. When you have downtime, 1 day passing in the campaign world for every day that passes in the real world, now you can send those assassins out. Now you can send those spies out. Everybody thinks that in order to gain information on the dungeon that you're looking to infiltrate, you really need to take time out of the game. Hey, Joe has got his assassination character backstabbing Sam. He's got to take the next hour of table time to pretend to be an orc and sneak into the dungeon, and oh, I hope he makes it. You don't got to do that on camera. You can do that off camera. Take a look at the DMG. You can get experience points off camera. If you go off and do one of these spying missions in downtime, you're going to be gaining XP while you're not using the character. It all gets condensed down into a single percentile die roll. That's fine. It's unpredictable. We like unpredictable. Okay. Oh, by the way, your mission took 2 weeks. Guess you got to fire up that NPC and make him a PC today. That's okay. You've got a roster of PCs who are all working different angles. So as I was saying, take a look at this spying table. You got a first level spy that you've hired, or that your PC is going into the Caves of Chaos, and he wants to know what's going on with the 2 different caves worth of orcs. He disguises himself as an orc, and now he goes in, and hey, guess what? That first kobold cave, kobold's going to be a little bit tighter, but now he knows, these 2 orc clans don't like each other. You come back 2 weeks later, you sit down at the table, and the DM says, yeah, guess what? We did this. You had a 50-50 chance. Oh, you failed. Okay, roll up a new guy. He'll go on the mission again. No problem. Not that big a deal. He's a first-level character. You didn't invest a whole lot of time into him, and now you come back with another character. 50-50 chance of being able to gain some really good information. Useful information. Information that you can use to plot and ensure that you get in and get out before the session is over. Right? Get out before the session is over. This is one of the ways you do it. Just a reminder, people think the question is, what happens if we're stuck in the dungeon when it's 11 o'clock and I got to go home? No, that's the wrong question. The right question is, how do we ensure that we're out by 11 o'clock? Because your assassin went in during the week, scouted it out, and found the back door that offers a better chance of escape should your cover get blown, should you encounter a tougher fight than you expected. You can get out. You've got options. This is how you build those options. Take a look at the time to accomplish the mission. Simple, difficult, extraordinary. The length of time is necessary to travel to the region must be determined by the referee. And naturally, take a look at the map. Hey, it's a 2-day hike to the dungeon. It's going to take anywhere from 1 to 8 days. Let's call it 3 days and then 2 days back. All downtime. I took the 7 days and I was able to find some simple information. Extraordinary mission might be penetrating. To use the well-known Caves of Chaos again, I want to know how many skeletons there are in that back cave at the end of the valley. That might be an extraordinary one. Although, hey, you can infiltrate a human cult fairly easily. Pretend to be an acolyte. You think the guy pretending to be, the evil priest pretending to be a good guy in the keep is the only one that can do this? Au contraire, my friend. And hey, while we're talking about it, if you're running AD&D, all of these rules apply to NPC assassins too. I want you to think about that. Your player characters are just as vulnerable to this stuff as your big, bad, evil guy. I want to go back to this slide. That second sentence is huge. This mission can be coupled with the stealing of some item. I would probably rule that the first mission is information. Hey, it turns out that the temple has an important MacGuffin we need. I'm going back in to steal it. Depending on what you're trying to steal, maybe it's the key to a portcullis. That might be pretty simple. To steal, make an imprint, make a copy, right? Maybe it's the big MacGuffin. It's the big ceremonial dagger that sits on the altar and the acolytes pray to it 24 hours a day. That one might be a little difficult, right? So now you're looking at having to require a little more time. One more thing, a little more time. Let me finish that thought. but it is possible, right? You should see now how the assassin class works so much better when you're putting the campaign first and then the rules first, right? Oh, we're looking at these rules. What does that mean for the campaign? Now what does it mean for the characters? Proper mindset opens up a lot of good stuff in this game. Classic cartoon from the DMG. This had better work. As a kid, as a youth, as somebody who was badly misled for years and years on how to play D&D, I listened to the shysters that are making a lot of money telling you how to play the game wrong. They have no answer for how to make this cartoon work. What you're looking at here is a pair of guys that are using, these are probably multi-classed assassin in the front, and then maybe a multi-classed assassin illusionist in the back. They're disguising themselves. They've got 2 chances to get into that rat and steal those big jeweled eyes. Good stuff. Possibilities are opening up. One more thing I want to show you that doesn't get talked about very often. At least I haven't seen people talk about it very much. And that is this ability of laying down some traps. Again, if you throw down traps during the session, and then you issue that classic line from the classic masterpiece of science fiction, Imperial battleship, halt the flow of time until we get together in 2 weeks. This won't work. Doesn't do anything. However, if you are using one-to-one time, traps now mean that your player character can influence the campaign by setting dangers that will impact the monsters in the dungeon while your players, the players now, are off leading their normal humdrum lives. When they come back to the table, the DM is going to say, hey, they say, all right, we're ready to go back to the dungeon. Remember all those traps we set? What happened? Maybe those traps wiped out a full squad of orcs during downtime. This is an equalizer. This is a way to give the players more power. At least the elite level players are going to be able to use this rule to challenge the NPCs, to challenge the game world, and to have some influence. But it's not going to happen if you're not using downtime. That about wraps it up. Just to kind of put it all together for you, there are a lot of things in these rule sets that are written for a living, breathing world that continues to evolve when you are away from the table. The Assassin is perhaps the best example of how all of this stuff fits together to create a more vibrant and living and challenging world, and how using the core concepts that we've talked about before can make this game a lot more fun for you. Hope you put these into practice. There's more in the rule sets. Go through, read them. Once you start doing this, you will find more and more and more opportunities to include assassins in your game, and you'll start to see other ways that other classes can take advantage of this brand new, old way of playing the game. And for those of you that have been using this and playing it in this style for the last 40 years, congratulations, you're part of a vanishingly small minority. But those of us that kind of trusted our betters for 40 years and were led down blind alley after dead end and never really understood why the game didn't feel quite right are finally catching up to you. Good on you. Wish you would have pointed it out sooner, but that's okay. Now that we're all getting on the same page, we can get back to the way this game was meant to be played, and it is glorious. Until next time, I'm praying for you.